The editor froze at the sight of this. Jungkook kissed Jimin's slumbering forehead, then quietly cried clapper loudly. Why is the camera still rolling? The words slipped from Minseo's mouth before her mind could catch up to the images flickering across the editing screen. Her fingers hovered, paralyzed above the pause key, as if halting the moment would shatter its fragile reality. The footage, unlabeled, buried in a folder marked private, was not meant to be found. The room on screen was dimly lit, grainy with midnight hues. Shadows danced across the sheets of a narrow bed. A soft mechanical hum indicated a hidden camera, stationary, breathing like an unseen witness. And then, from the edge of the frame, a figure entered. Jungkook, barefoot, hoodie drawn over his head. His movements were gentle, as if afraid to wake ghosts. He paused beside the bed. Jimin lay there, his chest rising and falling in rhythmic trust. The innocence in that stillness tore something in Minseo's chest. Then came the moment that burned itself into her eyes. Jungkook bent down, pressed a tender kiss to Jimin's forehead, lingered there for a beat too long, then straightened with trembling shoulders. A soft sob slipped through the audio, and then another. He turned away, wiping his face as if to erase a truth he had no right to feel. The clip ended. Silence fell like snowfall in the editing bay. Minseo blinked, her breath hitched. The footage hadn't been staged. There was no script, no camera angles rehearsed, only raw emotion, a love buried too deep and a grief far too real. As the lead editor of one of South Korea's most anticipated documentary series on the lives of global idols, Minseo had spent months slicing truth from illusion. She thought she'd seen everything. But this wasn't meant for the public. This wasn't meant for anyone. Down the hallway of the Seoul production house, laughter echoed, mocking, oblivious. Jungkook and Jimin's public personas were untouchable. Brotherhood, jokes, rehearsed affection, carefully curated for billions. But that kiss wasn't for the camera. And that cry, it came from the soul of a man unraveling. Minseo's hands finally moved. She clicked the timestamp, isolated the file. Her heartbeat galloped with the weight of decision. She couldn't stop thinking about the way Jungkook had touched Jimin's hair before leaving the room, fingers grazing like he was saying goodbye. Not the kind of goodbye you give before a flight. The kind of goodbye that carries secrets heavy enough to drown you. That night, Minseo went home without closing the program. She didn't sleep. The apartment smelled like burnt coffee and unanswered questions. The city lights outside her window blinked like Morse code, warning her, perhaps, or asking her to look deeper. By morning, she'd rewatched the clip 17 times, not out of obsession, but because it kept changing, not visually, but emotionally. She began to notice things, the slight tremor in Jungkook's hands, the soft exhale that might have been his name, whispered, Jimin. Minseo wasn't supposed to see this. But now she had. And something inside her told her this wasn't just a scene between two friends. It was the first thread in a tightly wound knot, a story no one wanted told, and a wound that hadn't healed. In the days that followed, Minseo began combing through the unused footage, the outtakes, the background clips often ignored. What she found weren't just fragments of a friendship under pressure, but glimpses of something more. Shared glances, half-finished sentences, the way Jungkook would look at Jimin when he wasn't being watched, and how Jimin would look away as if he were running from something too dangerous to name. Then came the van scene. Rain smeared across the vehicle windows. Their manager was speaking to staff outside. Inside the dim van, Jungkook leaned his head against the cold window. Jimin sat beside him, eyes closed, earphones in. Jungkook looked at him, not the way people look when they're bored or tired, but the way people look when they're praying for time to stop. Jungkook's lips moved. No sound, but Minseo read them anyway. I miss you, even when you're here. Minseo's stomach twisted. She knew what she was watching wasn't fiction, but the truth could be more dangerous than any lie the industry could script. She also knew she was running out of time. Someone had slipped that private footage into her editing queue, and someone else might already know she'd seen it. That night, her laptop was stolen. And so it began. I know what I saw, Jungkook. You kissed him. The silence that followed wasn't the kind that settled. It expanded, pressing against the walls of the empty studio like a living thing. Minseo's voice trembled, not out of fear, but rage at the betrayal of trust, of privacy, of her own blurred lines. Jungkook stood across from her, face paler than the white hoodie clinging to his frame, his fists buried in his pockets like they were the only things keeping him together. "You weren't supposed to be in that folder," he said quietly, the weight of those words heavier than any accusation she could throw back. "It was encrypted." "You left it there," she snapped. "You wanted someone to see it." "No," he growled, stepping forward. "I wanted it to disappear. I tried to delete it, but the server backed it up." His eyes burned into hers, dark, frantic, wild, like someone cornered. That night was never supposed to exist. It was a mistake. Minseo shook her head slowly. "Don't act like you didn't mean it. Don't act like you didn't feel it." Jungkook flinched as if she'd slapped him. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words never came. Instead, he turned away, packing, dragging his fingers through his hair until it stood like electricity. The lights above flickered once, then steadied. "I was drunk," he muttered. "No, you weren't," she said, walking closer. "You cried like a man breaking apart. You kissed him like someone who'd already lost him." Jungkook laughed bitterly. "Is that how you're going to cut it? Add some melancholic piano, maybe black and white filter. Make the world fall in love with our tragedy." "I'm not here to destroy you," she said. "But you're lying to yourself if you think you can bury this. If not from the world, then from him." Jungkook spun on his heel. "He doesn't know, he can't know." "He knows," came a voice from the door. Minseo turned sharply. Jungkook froze. Jimin stood there, his face unreadable. Hair damp from the rain or maybe sweat. His eyes were bloodshot, as if he hadn't slept in days, or as if he'd seen the footage too. "You think I never woke up that night," he said. "You think I didn't hear you whisper my name when you thought I was dreaming." Jungkook staggered back a step. "Jimin." Jimin walked forward slowly, never breaking eye contact. "You said goodbye like you were dying." "And I pretended to be asleep, because I didn't know how to hold that kind of heartbreak." The tension thickened into something unbearable. Minseo knew she shouldn't be here, not for this, but her legs wouldn't move. No one said a word as Jimin reached Jungkook, standing chest to chest, breath to breath. "You broke your own heart," Jimin said, softer now, "and you tried to protect me by hiding it." "I didn't want to ruin everything," Jungkook whispered. "Not after everything we built, not with cameras always watching. The world, they don't want this." "What about what I want?" Jimin's voice cracked, but it didn't waver. "Did it ever occur to you that I was scared too? That maybe I couldn't say anything because I didn't want to lose you?" "You pulled away," Jungkook murmured, blinking rapidly. "You always pulled away." "Because I felt it," Jimin hissed. "And I didn't know if it was real or if it would destroy us." Minseo's hand hovered near the equipment behind her. She had the instinct to record, to document, to preserve this rawness, but she didn't. Not now, not this. Jungkook's hands trembled as he reached for Jimin's shoulders. "Tell me what you want." Jimin looked at him, really looked at him. And the grief, the longing, the unspoken years flooded the space between them like a storm surge. "I want the truth," he said. "No more hiding, no more lying to each other. If this is going to break us, then let it break us honestly." Jungkook didn't answer with words. He pulled Jimin into a kiss, not desperate, not frantic, but quiet, like breathing, like they'd waited too long. Minseo turned away, giving them the dignity of privacy, even if only for seconds. Her hands trembled at her sides. When she turned back, they'd pulled apart, but not far. Jungkook's forehead rested against Jimin's. Their eyes closed. A fragile peace in the middle of war. Then Jimin opened his eyes and whispered, "There's something you should know. Someone else saw the footage." Jungkook's head snapped up. "Who?" Minseo stiffened. Jimin hesitated. "Taehyung." Jungkook's face drained of color. "No." "He came to me last night," Jimin said. "He said we need to talk urgently, that he has questions. He didn't look angry, just hurt." A chill swept the room. Minseo stepped forward. If he's seen it, he might not be the only one. Someone stole my laptop 2 nights ago. Jungkook's eyes narrowed. Stole, you mean hacked? She nodded. And if it's out there? No, Jungkook said again, this time sharper. No, this can't happen, not like this. We need to control it, Jimin said, before someone else does. Jungkook looked at both of them, his mask of calm unraveling thread by thread. You don't understand. If this gets out, the agency won't protect us. We'll be liabilities. Seio swallowed hard. Then we have to find who has the footage before it becomes a weapon. Outside, thunder rumbled. The sky darkened. Somewhere behind walls of glass and industry lies, a secret had begun to unravel. And it would not go quietly. The storm outside had not passed. Inside the dim-lit practice studio, the air smelled of sweat, rain-soaked fabric, and tension so sharp it could tear skin. Jungkook paced like a caged animal, fists clenched so tight his knuckles were bone-white. Jimin sat on the edge of the piano bench, silent, eyes fixed on the cracked screen of Seio's backup drive. The footage was still there. The kiss, the tears, the moment that had now turned from private ache to public threat. Taehyung hadn't answered his phone for 2 days. That fact more than anything unsettled Jungkook. Taehyung was many things, fiery, impulsive, loyal, but silent. Never, especially not after something like this. Seio leaned against the wall, arms crossed, scanning their body language. Her presence was half invited, half tolerated. She was no longer just the editor, she had become part of the secret. And if it came to war, she knew she'd have to choose sides. Then the door slammed open. Taehyung stood there, soaked to the skin, eyes wild, chest heaving like he'd sprinted through hell. The rain dripped from his jawline onto the wooden floor, pooling beneath his boots, but he didn't care. Don't lie to me, he said without preamble, voice shaking not from the cold but from betrayal. How long? Jungkook didn't move. Taehyung stepped forward. How long, Jungkook? The silence dragged like a blade across the room. Jimin stood, placing himself slightly between them. It wasn't supposed to happen, Jungkook finally said, barely above a whisper. Don't do that, Taehyung snapped. Don't feed me bullshit. Was it a fling? Was it pity? Or were we all just part of your twisted performance? Jungkook's face twisted in pain. You don't understand. I do understand, Taehyung roared. I watched the man I trusted like a brother break down beside someone he claimed was just a friend. I watched you fall apart and hide it from all of us. Jimin stepped in. Don't, Taehyung warned, eyes flicking to him. You lied to me too. Jimin flinched. You both pretended, Taehyung continued, voice trembling, through tour, interviews, rehearsals like nothing was happening, like nothing mattered. Meanwhile, I was the idiot standing in between, defending you, covering for your absences, talking down reporters. All while this, he pointed to the drive, was sitting there like a landmine. Seio saw it then, the real fracture. This wasn't about romance or betrayal of privacy. It was about trust, the very currency that held their universe together. Jungkook stepped forward. You think I didn't want to tell you? I've been living with this in my chest like a ticking bomb for 3 years. I couldn't say anything because the moment I did, everything we built would have collapsed. You should have told me, Taehyung said, quieter now. Not because you owe me, but because we promised each other, remember? No secrets, no masks. Jungkook lowered his gaze. I looked up to you, Taehyung whispered. You were my anchor. Jimin reached out then, gently touching Taehyung's arm. We never meant to hurt you. Taehyung pulled away, not violently, but as though the touch scalded. What hurts is that you love each other, he said. What hurts is that you didn't trust me to carry the weight with you. Seio finally spoke. We don't have time for this to tear you apart. The footage isn't just a secret anymore. It's leverage. All three turned to her. Someone has it, she continued. And if they're smart, which I assume they are, they're waiting, watching, either to expose you at the worst possible moment or to sell you. Jungkook's jaw tightened. Who? Seio hesitated. I checked the metadata. The backup server was accessed remotely 2 nights ago. It was routed through a VPN, but one ping came from a device used previously by Manager Seio. Jimin's eyes widened. Manager Seio's dead. He died last year. Exactly, Mincio said. Or so we thought. The room felt like it had dropped 10 degrees. Jungkook's lips parted in disbelief. He was the only one who knew before I said anything. He caught me crying after rehearsal once. I begged him not to say anything. He promised. Mincio's voice softened. There are rumors he disappeared before the car crash, that the accident was staged. I thought it was just tabloid nonsense, until now. Jimin stepped back, gripping the edge of the piano like it might hold him upright. You think he's alive and blackmailing us? Taehyung swore under his breath. This is insane. No, Mincio said. This is real. And if we don't find him, or whoever's behind this, your careers, your lives, your freedom could be dismantled in one broadcasted heartbeat. Jungkook nodded slowly. Then we end it before they begin. But Taehyung wasn't done. He turned to Mincio, stepping close. If you leak this, even accidentally, if you cut anything with that footage into the doc series. I won't, she said quickly. You have my word. He leaned in, eyes burning. If you betray him, I swear I'll burn everything. The studio, the footage, myself if I have to. Taehyung, Jimin said, voice laced with dread. No, he said, turning back to him. I protected us once. I'll do it again, even if it means becoming the villain. Mincio saw it then. Taehyung was unraveling too. Not because of jealousy, but because of fear. The fear of losing his family. Jungkook looked at both of them. We fix this together. No more lies, no more walls. Taehyung nodded. Then we find Seio, and we make damn sure he never opens his mouth. Rain lashed against the windows again, but this time it didn't feel like the sky crying. It felt like a countdown. You don't survive this industry with a pure heart. The corridor beneath HYBE's basement level was a place not many knew existed. It was a relic of the older building, untouched by the glitz of renovations and left behind like a forgotten scar. The flickering fluorescent light overhead cast long shadows against concrete walls stained with time. And tonight, it was where 3 of the world's most famous idols stood. No stylists, no staff, no masks. Just 3 men with too much to lose and a secret that was eating them alive. This is where Seio used to bring us during drills, Jungkook muttered, brushing dust from a rusted panel on the wall. When media training got too loud or when one of us broke down. Taehyung scoffed. How poetic, hiding in a basement again. Not hiding, Jimin said, his voice taut. We're here because we need the truth. They'd spent the past 2 days chasing whispers, calls to people who owed favors, private investigators under fake names, a long, sleepless night in a karaoke bar where a former HYB tech assistant had finally confessed. Someone had paid him handsomely to reactivate Seio's deleted access credentials only weeks ago. The man hadn't seen Seio, but he'd received voice instructions, coded, cold. Now, all signs pointed to one place, this building, this level, this room. Jungkook pried open the panel, revealing a narrow keycard slot beneath. Jimin stepped forward, pulled a lanyard from under his hoodie, and slid the silver card through. A low beep. The old steel door beside them clicked. The silence that followed was suffocating. Taehyung reached for the handle. We open it together, he said. They did. The room smelled like old paper and cold metal. Dust shimmered in the air like smoke. The only source of light came from a flickering monitor in the corner, humming softly, alive. And then movement. Someone sat at the desk. The figure didn't turn, didn't speak. Just clicked slowly through files on the screen, the faint clack of the mouse the only sound. Seio, Jungkook's voice was hoarse. The chair turned. Mincio had seen photos of him, back when he was still considered one of HYB's best strategists. Back before the rumors, the scandal, the car crash. But the man in front of them now was different. Thinner, older, not in years but in damage. His left eye was scarred, a long cut running from his temple to his jaw. He looked like someone who had once survived something unforgivable and chosen never to return. Well, Seio said, voice low and unrecognizable. Took you long enough. Jimin stepped forward. You're alive. Seio gave a slow nod, eyes flicking between them. Alive but erased. By your management, by your fame, by the machine I built with my own hands. What do you want? Jungkook's fists clenched. Money, revenge. Seio laughed, bitter and sharp. I want the truth. I want the world to see what happens when idols become puppets, when feelings are forbidden, when corporations use love as currency but punish it in reality. You were the one who punished us, Taehyung growled. You could have stopped it. You saw what was happening. I documented it, Seio said. Every time your hands brushed behind the curtain, every time you lingered too long in each other's eyes, I warned you, Jungkook. I told you this industry doesn't allow real love, and you ignored me. Jungkook's voice cracked, because I was stupid enough to believe it could survive. You were wrong, Seio said coldly, and now I have everything I need to prove it. He clicked a file. The monitor played the footage, but it wasn't just the bedroom scene. It was dozens of clips, private moments, conversations whispered in backstage corners, glances that had gone unnoticed by the public, now pieced together with surgical precision, a symphony of intimacy, of something real, something forbidden. You've been spying on us, Jimin breathed. I was archiving you, Seio said, for when the world turned its back on you, for when HYBE sold your story for profit and left you in the cold. Minseo stepped into the room, having followed behind without their knowledge. You're not protecting them, you're using them. Seio looked at her with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. And you're the one who kept the footage. Don't pretend you're innocent. I kept it because I saw the truth, she shot back. But I didn't leak it, you did. I leaked nothing, Seio said. Yet. Jungkook moved forward. Why now? After all these years, why not just disappear? Seio leaned back in his chair. Because someone higher up is about to release a story. A very different story. One that paints your relationship as fake. A manufactured scandal to boost engagement for your solo debut. What? Jimin's face went white. Oh yes, Seio said. They'll claim it was all scripted. An illusion. Romantic tension staged by the label. They'll throw Minseo under the bus as the rogue editor who planted the clips. You'll be separated, sent on solo tour across continents. And Taehyung, he'll be given a scandal of his own to distract the media. Taehyung stepped forward. Why are you telling us this? Because they think I'm dead, Seio said, eyes narrowing. Which means I'm the only one left who can prove the story's real. If you let them control the narrative, everything you are, everything you feel, will be rewritten. Jungkook's voice was low. What do you want us to do? Go public, on your terms. Tell the world before they do. Own the footage, control the story, or lose everything. Minseo's voice broke in. That's a death sentence. No, Jimin said quietly. It's the only way to live. The silence that followed was filled with everything unspoken. The years of fear, the weight of pretending, the exhaustion of carrying love like contraband. Taehyung looked at them both. If we do this, there's no going back. Jungkook nodded slowly. Then we go forward. Seio reached beneath the desk and pulled out a small drive. He handed it to Jungkook. This is every file, every moment. You tell the truth or they'll write the lie. As they left the basement, the rain had finally stopped. But the storm was just beginning. We go live at midnight. No PR teams, no filters, no damage control, just the truth. Jungkook right quote S voice echoed in the glass-walled conference room atop the HYBE building, where the city lights blinked below like a million eyes daring them to be honest. His hands gripped the flash drive Seio had handed him, its weight more than just physical. It was memory, pain, proof. And time was running out. Jimin leaned against the table, face pale but resolute. The quiet between them wasn't tension anymore. It was unity forged under fire. Taehyung, standing near the window, hadn't said a word in 10 minutes. He just watched the skyline like it might offer him another way out. We go live at midnight, Jungkook said again, looking from Jimin to Minseo, who stood with her laptop open, preparing the upload. Not a statement, Not a vague tweet, a full video, us sitting down, talking. Jimin nodded. Together. Taehyung finally turned around. You know this will explode the industry. Fans will divide. Sponsors will vanish. The label will retaliate. Let them, Jungkook replied. I'm done living in fear. You're not the only one who'll get hit, Taehyung said, walking toward them. His voice was quiet but edged with steel. Do you understand what this means for me? For the others? Once you say this, we're all targets. Jimin looked at him, his voice gentle but firm. You don't have to be part of it, T. We never wanted to drag you into our war. Taehyung right-quote's eyes burned. Don't you dare act like I'm some collateral damage. I've been standing between you both for years, watching you break and heal and pretend you're just friends while I lie to cameras and fans every day, saying we're all fine. If we go down, I go with you. Just don't ask me to smile while doing it. Minseo looked up. We can control the timing, delay it a week, leak parts slowly, ease people into it. No, Jungkook right-quote's voice was final. The longer we wait, the more chances the label has to twist it. The footage is time-stamped. They'll know it's real. If we try to soften the blow, it'll just look like manipulation. It needs to be raw. Taehyung sat down, rubbing his temples. God, I can already see the headlines. Jungkook and Jimin confess secret relationship. BTS scandal. Industry betrayal. And yet, Jimin murmured, I've never felt more like myself. The clock ticked, 11:15. Jungkook opened the hard drive. Within seconds, Minseo had loaded the files. A dark screen. Then a title. What you were never meant to see. They sat together on the gray couch of the small media studio downstairs. No stylists, no makeup, just them. Jungkook held the remote. Jimin sat beside him, knees barely brushing. Taehyung stood behind the camera, arms crossed tightly. You ready? Jungkook whispered. Jimin nodded. Say it. Jungkook pressed record. The camera began. He looked into it, not like a celebrity, like a man confessing to a world he no longer feared. My name is Jungkook. A pause. And I've been in love with Park Jimin since the winter of 2019. Jimin closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they shimmered but didn't break. We never planned this. We never meant to fall in love, but we did, quietly, in between flights, in dressing rooms, in silence. Jungkook added, we tried to protect each other, from the fans, from the press, from the system that told us love was weakness. A beat. And we failed. Jimin continued. We hurt people, we lied, we buried who we were so deep we almost forgot ourselves. But not anymore, Jungkook said. Then they let the footage play. The kiss, the sob, the forehead touch. Cut to silent moments. Glances during concerts, fingers brushing behind backs, shoulders leaned into after shows. Nothing scandalous, nothing explicit, just love, the kind too tender to be fake. By 11:58, the upload bar was nearly full. Minseo whispered, once I hit publish, there's no turning back. Jungkook looked at her, then do it. Midnight struck. She clicked. The video went live. By 12:02, it had 100,000 views. By 12:10, #Jikook Truth was trending in 12 countries. By 12:13, the label called. The screen lit up with a red warning. Private line, Chairman H. Jimin stared at it. He's going to demand we take it down. Jungkook didn't flinch. Let him. They didn't answer. Instead, Taehyung picked up the second phone, his own. A message from their shared manager. Where are you? The building's surrounded. Press outside. Chairman's furious. Emergency meeting in 1 hour. Taehyung looked at them. You really lit the fuse. Jungkook stood, then let it burn. By morning, they'd either be free or finished. You think you're brave. This industry eats brave alive. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt longer than the years they'd spent hiding. Jungkook stood with his back straight, jaw clenched, while Jimin held onto his sleeve like the building itself might collapse. Taehyung leaned against the mirrored wall, watching their reflections fracture with every passing floor. Minseo stayed behind, blocked by security, her last look at them filled with apology and pride. The doors opened. Chairman Han didn't invite them to sit. "You've turned a business empire into a soap opera," he said calmly, fingers steepled on the polished desk. His eyes were sharp, unblinking. "And you did it without permission." Jungkook stepped forward. "We told the truth." Han's lips curled slightly. "Truth is irrelevant. Control is everything." Jimin swallowed. "You were going to lie about us." "We were going to protect the brand," Han replied. "Which is more than you're doing now." Taehyung let out a bitter laugh. "By erasing who they are." "By keeping them profitable," Han snapped. "You think fans care about your feelings? They care about fantasy, about perfection. You shattered that illusion." Jungkook's hands shook. "They deserve reality." "They deserve entertainment," Han corrected. "And you've jeopardized contracts worth hundreds of millions. Sponsorships are already pulling out. The Japanese tour is suspended. You didn't just confess love, you declared war on the system that built you." Jimin's voice was small but unwavering. "Then let it fall." Han leaned forward. "You don't survive this industry with a pure heart." The door burst open before anyone could respond. Manager Seio stood there, flanked by 2 stunned security guards. His scarred face was calm, almost serene. "You tried to kill me," Seio said softly. Han's composure cracked for the first time. "Get him out." Seio laughed. "You erased me, you staged my death, and now you're surprised I came back with receipts." He tossed a folder onto the desk. Contracts, non-disclosure clauses, surveillance permissions buried beneath legal jargon, evidence of systemic spying. "You built a cage," Seio continued, voice rising. "And when they loved inside it, you called it disobedience." Jungkook stared at Han. "You were watching us." Han stood slowly. "I was protecting my investment." Jimin's eyes filled. "We were never people to you." "No," Han said coldly. "You were assets." The room fell silent. Taehyung stepped forward, his voice shaking with fury. "You broke them, and you expected us to smile through it." Han straightened his jacket. "This conversation is over. I will release a statement in 1 hour claiming your video was unauthorized and misleading. Your accounts will be seized. Your access revoked. You will be silent." Seio smiled. "Too late." Han turned. "What did you do?" Seio pulled out his phone. "I sent everything to every major journalist I trust. Contracts, surveillance logs, medical cover-ups. It's not just about them anymore." Han lunged forward, but security held him back. Outside, the sound of sirens began to rise. Jungkook looked at Jimin, eyes blazing. "Whatever happens now, we did this together." Jimin squeezed his hand. "I'm not afraid anymore." Taehyung exhaled sharply, almost laughing. "We just burned the whole house down, didn't we?" Seio opened the door. "You burned the cage, that's different." They walked out into chaos, flashing lights, shouting reporters, phones held high like weapons. Jungkook stepped in front of Jimin instinctively. Microphones surged toward them. "Is it true?" someone yelled. "Were you being monitored by your own company?" Jungkook looked straight into the camera. "Yes." A gasp rippled through the crowd. "And are you still together?" another voice shouted. Jimin answered, voice trembling but proud. "Yes." The world held its breath. And for the first time, so did they. The courtroom smelled like old paper and panic. 3 weeks had passed since the video. 3 weeks of headlines that spun like shrapnel. BTS members expose corporate surveillance scandal. Global fandom divided over romance confession. HYBE's dark secrets unveiled. The industry had been cracked open, dragged into the daylight by the very idols it tried to silence. And now, the reckoning had arrived. Jungkook sat between Jimin and Taehyung, dressed not in the sleek suits tailored for press conferences, but in black, plain, defiant human. Cameras lined the back of the courtroom. Every blink was documented. Every breath could be twisted into a headline. But they were done performing. Across from them, Chairman Han sat behind his legal team, cold and composed, though no longer untouchable. Seio, seated further back, watched in silence. His testimony had already set fire to the case. Unauthorized surveillance, forged contracts, attempts at silencing whistleblowers. The judge's gavel had slammed down twice just to contain the gasps from the room. Minseo was called as a witness. She stood tall. I was told to delete the footage. I didn't, because it wasn't scandal, it was truth. Han's lawyer sneered. You tampered with evidence. I preserved it, she said, her voice unwavering. Because the world needed to see what love looked like when it wasn't staged. Jimin's hand slid into Jungkook, beneath the table. A small act of rebellion that no camera could spin. Taehyung leaned in. Do you regret it? He whispered. Jungkook shook his head. No, do you? Taehyung's smile was faint, but real. I regret not saying something sooner. The trial was adjourned for deliberation. Outside, fans waited. Some wore tears on their cheeks, some wore betrayal in their eyes, some still didn't know how to feel, but they were there, still watching, still listening. Back in the holding room, Jimin paced. What if they find some loophole? He asked. What if they twist it again, bury it under contracts and money? They already tried, Taehyung said, and we're still here. Jungkook looked out the window. The press was gathering like a storm. Let them see everything, he murmured. Even if they turn away, at least we didn't hide. A soft knock came at the door. A court officer stepped in. They're ready. Back in the courtroom, the judge's voice cut through the air like a blade. After reviewing the evidence and testimonies, this court finds Chairman Han in violation of privacy and contract abuse statutes. He is to be removed from his executive position, with a criminal investigation to follow. The room erupted, but Jungkook heard nothing but the beating of his heart. And as for the plaintiffs, the judge continued, Jeon Jungkook, Park Jimin, and Kim Taehyung, you are not only exonerated but commended for your courage in exposing a systemic abuse of power. The courtroom fell into stunned silence. Jimin let out a shaky breath. Jungkook squeezed his hand, and Taehyung, his eyes welled with something that hadn't been there in years, peace. Outside, when they stepped into the light, something had changed. The fans didn't scream, they didn't chant, they stood, quietly, respectfully, holding signs, some in support, some in sorrow, but no longer in delusion. Jungkook stepped up to the mic. I don't expect you to understand everything right away, he said, but I hope you'll see us as we are, not idols, not images, but people. Jimin added, we never wanted to betray anyone, we just wanted to breathe. Taehyung looked out at the crowd. We were told the truth would destroy us, but maybe it just set us free. As they walked down the steps, arms around each other, the cameras flashed, not with scandal, but with something closer to reverence. They didn't know what tomorrow would bring. Labels might blacklist them. Sponsors might vanish. Fans might walk away. But the weight was gone. They were no longer ghosts in their own story. They were real, seen, unbroken. And that, finally, was enough.